Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving deep, unlocking the secrets of some centuries-old occult manuscripts that have been hidden away for ages. We're going to break down all the cryptic symbols and complex ideas into 10 key takeaways. So, let's start with this quote. Hear the voice of the fire. It's this Latin phrase from way back in the 17th century, and it's the perfect place to begin. It's this invitation you see pop up again and again in these texts, basically telling you to stop looking outside for answers and to start listening to that inner fire, that hidden source of knowledge we all have. It really sets the perfect tone.
Look, for the longest time, trying to get into these texts was like navigating a maze of riddles and really arcane language. But don't worry, we've done the hard work for you. We've sifted through it all to pull out the core ideas, the big principles that these mystics and philosophers were so focused on.
All right, first up, let's get into the fundamental worldview you find in these texts. And this is a big one. The idea that the universe we're living in isn't just some random chaotic accident. No, it's a deeply connected, intelligent, conscious system. So takeaway number one is huge. These writers didn't see the universe as just a bunch of dead rocks and empty space. Not at all. To them, the whole cosmos was one single massive living being. Every star, every planet, you, me, we're all just cells in this giant divine body, all of it animated by one universal mind. So, if everything is part of one big living thing, right, then it all has to be connected. This is what they call the principle of correspondence, or sympathy. These texts teach that there's this invisible web linking everything together. The giant macrocosm of the stars is perfectly mirrored in the tiny microcosm of our own lives. You've probably heard the phrase for this, as above, so below. And this wasn't just some fuzzy philosophical idea. No way. It was a super detailed system. I mean, look at this quote. They mapped out these sympathies with incredible detail. They believed that the planets had real, actual influence on each other, and because of that, on everything here on Earth. And here's where it gets really wild. This wasn't abstract at all. They saw it as a literal map. This table links planets not just to personality stuff, like Mars making you more impulsive, but to your actual physical appearance. They believe that if you were born with Mars rising, you might literally have a mark of Mars, like a scar or a birthmark. It's like the cosmos was writing its signature directly on you. Okay, so we've got a conscious, connected universe. But according to these texts, what we can see and touch, that's just the surface level. They talk about multiple planes of existence, kind of nested inside each other, and the most important one for us is what they call the astral plane. So how do you picture the astral plane? Well, you can think of it like a spiritual internet, or maybe the blueprint for our physical world. It's this realm made of a much finer substance, a place where our thoughts, our dreams, our emotions, they're all real, tangible things. The occultists believed our world is basically built from this stuff, and it's the place that psychics and clairvoyants are tapping into. So if reality has all these hidden layers, how do you even begin to navigate them? Well, the answer, they say, is all about learning a new language, the language of symbols, and coming to terms with the idea that we share this reality with all sorts of non-physical beings. This brings us to takeaway number 4. The universe speaks in symbols. And to the occultist, nothing is ever just what it seems. A mountain isn't just a big rock, it's a symbol of climbing higher, of spiritual goals. A simple shape isn't just a drawing, it's the physical vessel for a spiritual power. The entire world becomes this giant book just waiting to be read. And you won't believe how deep this goes. Take something like geomancy, which is a kind of divination that uses patterns of dots. These patterns weren't just random. Each one, like Carcer here for confinement or Letitia for joy, was seen as a letter in a kind of sacred alphabet, spelling out the spiritual forces that are at work under the surface. All right, next up, and you might want to buckle up for this one. According to these texts, we are not alone. The universe is absolutely teeming with life, and a lot of it isn't physical. They describe this really complex spiritual world that exists right alongside ours, filled with beings that can be helpful or neutral or, pretty harmful. And we're not just talking about the usual angels and demons here. It's way more complex. On one hand, you have what they call elementals. These are nature spirits like gnomes and sylphs who are on their own evolutionary journey.
But on the other hand, you have evil spirits, which they believed weren't fallen angels, but the actual leftover souls of truly wicked people whose malice just kind of sticks around. Okay, so you've got this living, layered, spirit-filled reality. The obvious next question is, so what? How do you interact with it? How can you actually influence it? This is what they considered the path to personal power. Well, a core idea, takeaway number 6, is that the human mind has these incredible dormant powers. Things we'd call supernatural, like clairvoyance or telepathy, they saw as totally natural. They're just latent abilities that need to be trained. They're not some gift from the heavens. They're skills you can develop, just like learning to play the piano. Okay, so if we have these latent powers, how do you actually use them to, peek behind the curtain, to see the future or uncover secrets? This is where we get to the practical art of divination. And this is where it gets really interesting. The secret, they say, is that your logical, everyday mind actually gets in the way. Divination works by distracting it. By doing something that seems random, shuffling cards, tossing sticks, you basically bypass your analytical brain. And that creates an opening for a deeper, more intuitive part of you, what they called the automatic faculty, to pick up on those hidden patterns of the universe. So let's make this real. How does this work with something like tarot cards? Well, first you focus your conscious mind on a question. Then comes the shuffling. That's the key automatic part, where your intuition is supposedly arranging the outcome. The spread gives you a structure, a framework to read. And then finally, your intuitive faculty gets to interpret the symbolic story that's been laid out. But what if you don't just want to see reality? What if you want to change it? That brings us to maybe the most empowering idea of them all. The ultimate power tool is your own will. This quote says it all. A focused will is the main creative force in the universe. It's the engine that can literally direct energy and shape reality. It all sounds cool, right? Developing psychic powers, wielding your will. But why? What's the end game here? Well, it's not just about doing cool tricks. They saw all of this as part of a much bigger, much more profound human quest for transformation and meaning. See, a huge piece of this puzzle is the idea that this life, it isn't a one-and-done thing. They saw it as this long evolutionary journey for the soul, stretched across many, many lifetimes. And the law that governs that whole journey is karma. It's a simple, absolute law of cause and effect. Every single thing you do or think creates a ripple that eventually, one way or another, comes back to you. And that brings us to our final takeaway, number 10, the whole point of the journey, transformation. The best symbol for this is alchemy. Yeah, on the surface, it was about turning lead into gold. But the real secret, the esoteric meaning, was that it was all a giant metaphor. The real great work was turning the impure, leaden self into a purified, golden spiritual being. It was never really about the metal, it was about you. So, when you put it all together, what have we learned? A really clear picture starts to form. It's a vision of a universe that isn't cold, dead, and random, but is alive, intelligent, and just bursting with meaning. A universe where we aren't just passive bystanders, but powerful, active creators in the grand scheme of things. And that leaves us with one big, final question to chew on. Are all these ancient systems a kind of lost science? A forgotten wisdom that truly describes how reality works? Or are they something else? Are they beautiful, incredibly detailed, symbolic maps of the deepest parts of the human mind itself? That's a secret that might be worth pondering.